Hello and welcome back to another review with me, Kevin, from Kevin Grant on Whiskey. This week we've got something which is a little bit more easily obtainable. It's the Glenfiddich 18-year-old. If you look at this here and you look at the new bottles just now, you can kind of see this is one of the older styles. So this is from, I've had this since 2019. I've still got a little bit left and I don't know if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I've just kind of went through the cupboard there and found something that I've not reached for a long time. So I don't know if I've either tried to hide it because it's been that good or if I've put it back because I've not been enjoying it. So we're going to find out today. Glenfiddich is a Speyside. Some people do think it's Highland, but it is classed as a Speyside up in Dufton. It was founded by William Grant in 1886. I am a Grant. I could be some way inclined to be related to this distillery. That'd be great if I was. Maybe I have to do some checks on that. But William Grant kind of pioneered a lot of the whiskey industry. His family, I think he had 9 children overall, like 7 sons and 2 daughters. So he was able to get this distillery in 1886, built it more or less by hand, and in 1887 on Christmas Day, the first run was ever made on Christmas Day in 1887 of the Glenfiddich whiskey, which is pretty cool, a good landmark, an easy one to remember as well. We kind of fast forward in things. He did pass away. William Grant did pass away quite early in his life. I think he had a lot more to offer in the whiskey industry and what could have been done. The sons took over and pioneered their way forward. And in 1963, if we go there, if we shoot forward to this amount of time, to 1963, Glenfiddich was the first whiskey to ever advertise outside of Scotland. So putting ads in papers, TV stuff, all these types of things. They were the first to ever do that, to become a global brand. And to this day, you can see that it's definitely paid off. It's the biggest selling whiskey in the world, I think. So Glenfiddich being massive, they produce about 21 million litres a year as well. It's a huge outfit they've got up there, somewhere I've never been. But I would love to go and just explore. We fast forward, again, we go into the kind of 1990s. We look at what they have. In 1990s, they built a big Solera cask. So a big Solera is, I have a Solera bottle over here, so it will never ever be empty. It's constantly getting topped up. But the thing with the Solera that they have, it's for their 15-year-old only. So it's always going to be aged at 15 years. And it will never ever stop. It's always going to be topped up. So it's going to change flavour every single time. Over time, if you bought a bottle maybe today and then you bought one in a few years' time, even though it still has the same age on it, they're going to be completely different, which I think is quite cool. We look at the master distillers, Brian Kinsman. He's been there now. I can't remember if he took over from David Stewart. I think that he took more time at Balvenie. But we look at the William Grant's son as the family owned, which is quite rare in whiskey as well. It's family owned. They decide what they do. So they have Glenfiddich, Balvenie, Ailsa Bay and Kinninvie distilleries. So they've got a few there, but this is obviously the baby. This is a one that brings all the world to notice them. We look again what else they've been able to kind of pioneer and bring forward in Glenfiddich. I can't remember if it's maybe the 60s again, they did bring a coppersmith on board to look after the stills because they believed that this was the main thing to be looked after, and this is what the equipment had to be kept good to keep this liquid running, to keep this coming out and people buying it. Pioneering that in the 60s to bring out a single malt and things as well. As if they kind of predict the future. And then they brought in a cooper, so they've got their own cooperage on site as well. Again, another rare thing. This 18-year-old, if we look into it, Glenfiddich Valley of the Deer is what that translates to. This is 18 years old, it's 40%, but there's a batch number. Mine is 3630. With the 18-year-old, it's always a small batch release. So they're going to be slightly different tastes each time. It's not a consistent thing. Again, I do enjoy that. You do find certain things, like if we look at Aberlour, they do that, the Abuna, they bring them out in batches. Some are really good and some are okay. With this is the 18-year-old, 40%, so it's been totally wiped down to the lowest it can go, looking at maybe at a high scale market because they're globalised and the global market prefers something softer, unlike us who really enjoy whiskey and want it, for me personally, cask strength, non-chill filtered and all these things. This is American oak and sherry casks as well. that we've got. I did phone to try and find if they would tell me where they came from, but unfortunately they didn't. So we've just got sherry and bourbon casks. We'll get into this now. We'll get this on the nose. We'll see what it does. As I say, this has been sitting there for a while, 2019, and I don't think I've reached for this. Maybe early last year, maybe a year ago was the last dram I had. So we'll see how it goes. Anyway, so let's get this on the nose. It's really light. There's still a lot of life in that for how far down the bottle is and how long it's been sitting there. It's really appley. It's got a lot of apple to it. It's got a lot of like brown sugar notes. It's got a very kind of distinct floral hit to it as well. Yeah. Apple, floral, sugar. Very light, very easily smelt on the nose. But that's the three things I can pick out. There's not much else I can find. It's not too complex, if that makes sense. It's not a very complex. It's trying to find. They're just the three main flavours that I can smell from this so far. We'll try it in the palate and see if anything changes. Slange it, folks. Spicier than I thought. Definitely has a little bit of spice at the end. Maybe a milky coffee as well. Quite, yeah. I see milky coffee, and it's gone. That lightness of being 40% just hits, and then the flavour disappears. It's one you'd have to kind of keep going back to try and find more flavour, but a little bit of spicy and kind of milky coffee is what I got on the palate. It doesn't knock my socks off. It's okay. There's something. It's maybe like a little bit fresh. It's maybe a wee bit of like kind of quite soapy. You know, that clean, like dish soap type. It's hand soap, apples, brown sugar, floral, soap. That's what I'm picking out there. Then on the palate, spicy, milky coffee. Let's see, we'll go back for another wee drink here and see if we can find anything else on the palate. It just disappears. There's just no bite. There's nothing to bring you in. For me personally, that's what it's missing. A real big kind of bite there. For me, it's okay. Would this get replaced? Probably not. I think I would look for something maybe a little bit higher ABV, something a bit more transparency on the label. Like I do, like the Glenfiddich Project 20, it's got the 2X's on it. I really enjoy that. I think that's a great whiskey and that's got a higher ABV on it. This, for some reason, just isn't bringing me back for more, and I wonder if that's why that's been sitting at the back of the cupboard. You know, it's just my personal taste just likes higher ABV, and this just doesn't have it. It is settled, it is nice. This is a definite introductory whiskey if you don't want something too complex and you want to be able to maybe pick out some tasting notes and some flavours, and you can be able to smell certain things. I do think the apple, the sugar, and the floral notes are very prominent in it. And then the tasting, I'd be inclined to share maybe the rest of this with some people and see what else can you get, because I'm just missing some things just for how light it is. It's a okay whiskey, as we've said. I'm not going to buy it again once it's finished. I will probably replace it, but I do think Glenfiddich's a great distillery, and what they've done, I would say, for the whiskey industry by being able to promote themselves so early on to get globalisation out there to other brands to then jump on the back of that, like Glenlivetts and Macallans and so forth, and Glenmorangies and things. They jump on top of that, and then Scotch whisky is then being able to just catapult into the world all over the place, and this is selling everywhere. So it's been absolutely amazing for that. But it's one, I'm probably not going to go and sit back and pour another one. I think this maybe go back into the cupboard for, we'll see how long, once someone's over. I've got a couple of drams in this. Yeah, I'll be able to share this out and get this finished, get this bottle in the recycling, and then we'll find, there's a wee space on the shelf now, so we'll be able to find something else that we can put in there. But as I say, it's okay whiskey. It's not for me. It's not my favourite. It's not too complex. It's very light. Something that maybe a lot more people enjoy. And let me know your thoughts on it as well. Have you had this? Do you have the same thoughts as me? Do you really enjoy it? Again, I love to hear people's notes. I think whiskey's so good to speak to people, and everyone has different tastes. But just let me know what you think of this in the comments below. Hit that like button, hit the subscribe if you've not done so already. We'll bring more content out every single Friday as we do. And I'll try and find something different for next week. I'll have a wee look through the cupboards again and see what's sitting there, and we'll get something brought to you. Maybe something a little bit higher ABV, a little bit cooler than this, that maybe entice the taste buds a little bit more. But I'll raise a wee glass to our Robbie Burns, wee Scottish poet, legend that he is. I did put a wee post up during the week there for him, but unfortunately I was working, so I wasn't able to have my drama. Poured it out, poured it back in, but I got it when I came home. So I'm going to go sit back. I'll probably finish this off. I won't be pouring another one today. I'm going to go and enjoy my weekend, a wee relaxing weekend, and maybe have a wee look online to find something that's going to replace this. But as always, I've been Kevin from Kevin Grant on Whiskey. Join me next week. Let's talk whiskey. Slange.